military ambulance dating from World War II, and here's why. Because we're at Field Depot, and so, hello my friends, this is Lawrence here. Well, this is the third time I've ever filmed this event called Field Depot, you know, in commemoration to the liberation of Orbais by the Americans from the Axis powers, and so yes. And so what I'm about to see, or to witness, is a huge parking lot of military vehicles belonging to the Allied forces, mostly the American Army. And so, here we go. The American Army, it is done. As you could tell, Willys Jeeps, which also there is Ford, also made these type of Jeeps as well for the military, for the war effort, and also the Dodge Army truck, also for the war effort. And you see a lot of variants of it, and also a lot of customization, decoratives, and also symbols as well. For example, as you could see here, this is the symbol of the unicorn, or let's say the Pegasus, excuse me, which represents the Airborne Division. And so the Airborne Division, it is, yeah, American Airborne Division, as you can tell from the badge here, the red, blue and white. And here it is, the role of the American Army and even the US Airborne Division. Let's have a look at the contrast between two different types of vehicles. This vehicle, once again, is a Willys Jeep, which is used by the American soldiers on the front line. And this is a Plymouth, dating back to the late 1930s, also used throughout World War II. It's for the general staff. And if you look very closer, Plymouth, Chrysler core product, yep. It's pretty much of an old-time vehicle, yep, used for the generals, to transport the generals whenever it comes to important matters. And here, for the front line, is the military Willys Jeep. And look at the suspension of it. It's very efficient because this vehicle, or let's say the Jeep, is designed to go across all terrain, whenever it be the desert, through the muds, and all types. All the stuff you can name. And now for the intro. Okay, so here we have it. Here's the intro. Now on with the video. Right now, this is field report once again, where there's an encampment of Allied soldiers, mostly American soldiers, although there are very few British soldiers, but I don't see any British soldiers yet. But anyway, for the most part, this is the commemoration of how the Americans liberated Orbais from the Germans without any opposition whatsoever. And so here it is. This, for example, is a Dodge Army truck where it says US Army Pennsylvania Central Airlines, where it has a DC-3 Dakota. DC-3, yep, a very typical World War II aircraft, transport aircraft, which is also used for the parachutists, which is one of the reasons why it is adopted for the military purpose. Here's a Chrysler, the one with the 2 stars. That's for the 2-star general who's attending important matters whenever it comes to the liberation of Normandy or invasion of Normandy and the liberation of Europe from the Germans. And over here is a Dodge Army truck used for transporting soldiers whenever it comes to going on the front line. It's pretty much of a mobile warfare because World War II, it's pretty much evolved from World War I whenever it comes to trench warfare, and now it has been evolved to mobile warfare by the time technology advances, and also advanced weapons, and by the time the vehicles have been upgraded, especially when it comes to the war effort. There is something very new which has been added for field report. Now, this is no ordinary cafe because gather that it's called Cafe Renne. There, it's a Polish section, you know, Dzień dobry, dzień dobry. Yep, Polish section. Here it's called Cafe Renne. That's very new, which wasn't there before compared to 2022 and 2023, but that's been added. And so yes, here's a bar, cafe, where they serve drinks, and you can see an old-fashioned telephone over there, and posters, decanter, serving drinks, and yeah. And here's a tent with the ambulance corps. Oh, incoming jeep. Here it is. And when it comes to very rare occasions, here's a bicycle. Bicycles were rarely used during World War II, although in the beginning of World War II, bicycles were used by soldiers, whenever it be by the Danish, the Dutch, Belgians, and also by the Japanese soldiers, and even by the Germans at the beginning of World War II. That is because bicycles were very cheap to maintain. And if you look here, on a crossbar, they added a bag with grenades on it. And also on a rack pannier, there's this pouch where they put essential stuff here. But of course, by the time the war progressed, bicycles became obsolete, which is one of the reasons why vehicles, or let's say petrol combustion vehicles, became the key whenever it comes to the war effort, as opposed to, you know, bicycles in the beginning of World War II, although still very essential whenever it comes to transportation and also when it comes to other essential stuffs or even non-combatant role. And moving on to the French resistance section, where you could tell the French flag above and the Belgian flag below. But of course, this is meant to be the French resistance section, or let's say French soldiers who have been absorbed into the US military, whenever be given military uniforms, and sometimes British uniforms as well. And here, on the other side, here you see American vehicles. There you see another Dodge truck with M1 Browning machine gun, whenever it be 30 caliber. And here is an M3 truck, you know, based on the design of an M3 half-track. But this time, this M3 truck only has wheels, no track whatsoever. And so it's full wheels. And so here it is. But the bonnet is very similar to the M3 half-track, for that matter, because it's very common for the US soldiers in World War II. So that's pretty much of a foundation of armored personnel carrier when it comes to carrying troops to the front line. Another section of the US Army encampment, Airborne HQ, or let's say headquarters, stars and stripes above, World War II based army tents for the soldiers, because every soldier carry its own tent. But this tent is very large, where you see soldiers chilling. Bonjour, hello. Yeah, except for this soldier here who wears a khaki uniform, British Army uniform with a Belgian badge. So, unlike these American soldiers who wear bottle green uniforms, this soldier here wears a similar uniform to the British Army uniform. That is because when the Belgians were overrun by the Germans, they went to the UK and they were trained by the British to fight, and so they were given British uniforms, British weapons and equipment, and so this is one of the reasons why Belgian soldiers like this guy wear British Army style uniforms. That's for the liberation of Belgium, for example, as part of the liberation of Europe. Army truck over there. Once again, it's a Dodge Army truck. And that's another type of army truck. But this time, if you look at that cabin over there, this is for the workshop. When it comes to fixing weapons, maintaining kits, and all the essential stuff that is required for the US military. It's just to keep the logistics going. And this is where we wrap things up for today's video here at Field de Port. Where behind me, where you get a lot of military vehicles, World War II US military vehicles here at Field de Port in Orbais, just by the museum called Musée du Souvenir 40 et 45. And so, I hope you really enjoyed the video. So, thank you very much, and hopefully you liked the video. Have a nice day.